It's Groundhog Day, everybody. Welcome back to this very special webinar. We are marking the 1 year anniversary of the last time we did this webinar with Tim Flower, myself, Tom McGrath, and of course our very special guest, NextThink Chief Product Officer Samuel Gantner. But more auspicious is that we're marking the 2nd year running, or the anniversary of, plus the return of, NextThink being named leader in the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant. And if you haven't already downloaded it, we're sure somebody's on the chat making it freely available to you this very instant. And if you have downloaded it, you're going to hear some fantastic analysis of the quadrant, of the state of the industry. And more pertinently, this is one of the things we always turn to Sam for, insight into where the industry is going next. But first of all, obviously, welcome, Sam, back to this presentation once again. Good to see you. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm doing great, and I'm delighted to be here today with you guys.
Excellent. And I don't know if you remember, Sam, but before we get into the analysis of the industry, the Magic Quadrant, and all of those themes, last year we kicked off with a conversation about how you did your research, and you were telling us how much great usage you were getting from AI. You were having conversations with it about how the eye worked and such. Like, this is a year ago now. A year on, any novel AI usages worth sharing with the audience? Any fun apps you've recently encountered?
Listen, there's a few. There's one. I don't know if I should talk about that, but have you guys tried Monday, ChatGPT Monday?
Go. Keep going. I think I know what you're talking about. So go.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very satiric, ironic kind of thing inside of ChatGPT. So I'm using that. I don't know if it's healthy, but I find it kind of hilarious. And then, most seriously, my teams are adopting quite a number of technologies. What I've seen in the past year, and it's amazing, is that all of these promises around AI are starting to get into the products for real. And we're really starting to see the difference. So, for instance, teams are using Bolt, Lovable, Replit to do very quick prototyping. It really enables product managers to do prototyping of working apps without any developers on that. Designers use new capabilities within Figma to do kind of the same, but more from a design standpoint. Developers are completely crazy about Cursor and GitHub Copilot. So there is a lot that is happening, and we're really starting to see the value. So it's very exciting times for the industry.
We're going to dig into all that, Sam. I thought you were going to tell us some a bit more of a novelty usage. Come on, it's okay. It's okay. The audience can handle it. What's
Yeah, look, apart from Monday and my custom GPTs, I'm having a lot of fun creating a bunch of them. That's pretty much it for me,
Okay. So let's say congratulations to you and your team for helping to steer us to another leadership position in the Magic Quadrant this year. Anything stand out to you about the MQ, other, of course, than NextThink's recurrent presence at the top of the pile?
Listen, obviously, I was very pleased by this MQ. Everybody in the company is working really, really hard to define and shape the DEX concept, the DEX market. And so, seeing this in a report from Gantner, it's obviously very pleasing. There have been some movements, right, in the Magic Quadrant. Some acquisitions, especially TeamViewer, we saw appear in the quadrant. ServiceNow making their entrance, I would say, in some ways, in the quadrant for the first time. I would say overall, there are many capabilities, and that's the interesting part for me, that are making it in the mandatory list. Things that we've been working on and we've been providing to our customers for quite a while, like the ability to act on endpoint automation, the ability to bidirectionally talk to employees and interact with employees. So I was pleased to see that as part of the market. And also was very pleased, not surprised, but very pleased of the appearance of digital adoption as part of the DEX market, right? Really seeing those two concepts coming together. So maybe we're going to get a chance later in the webinar to talk about that, right?
Absolutely, we are. And but let's begin with AI. And as you say, started to really pervade our product, very heavily this year in particular, in terms of really progressive, exciting usages, I think. And it feels like Assist in particular has really come to the forefront since we last spoke. now able to act as an analyst effectively. Do you envisage a time in the future or near future where it can take action without human validation? And how do you see that trust model evolving en route to that milestone?
Look, the short answer is absolutely yes, and we need to get there step by step, right? There are really three dimensions around the evolution of assist that are very important. One is our continuous effort in making it smarter and smarter. The second one is giving the right tools to be able to interact with the environment. And then the third one is choosing the model in which assist is invoked. Let me elaborate. First of all, about making it smarter, because that's the foundation. If we want a system that is able to act autonomously, it needs to be smart. It needs to make the right choice and the right decisions, right? And if you remember, we launched Assist 1.0 a year ago, and that version was good at answering individual questions, but it wasn't good at reasoning. Earlier this year, we went out with Assist 2.0, which is great at drawing complex conclusions by analyzing a lot of data and a lot of insights. And now, very soon, by the way, we're putting in the experimental track of Assist what we call agentic assist, which is basically a version of Assist that is able to autonomously reason about things before it provides an answer to you. So what it does is invoke tools, look at the data, think about what is seen, decide to look at additional data, ask additional questions, iterate on its own like that until it's convinced about the answer, and then it provides the answer to you. So that, plus the fact that we continue to add new data sources, is making it smarter and smarter and smarter. So that's the first pillar. The second one, if we want Assist to interact with the world, we need to give it the right tools for that. On its own, it's just inputting and outputting text and visualizations, right? And so one of the things that we're thinking about is adding capabilities to Assist to interact with Act, Flow, Engage, possibly other MCP provided by other tools in the industry. And then the third step, is choosing the invocation model for Assist. So today, Assist is invoked by a human, right? There's something that we need, something that we want, and so we go to the Assist interface, we ask the question, and then all of this starts. At a certain point, we can ask Assist to perform actions, and they will do that for you. The step after that is making Assist autonomous. And this is really, I think, where you want to go, actually where I want to go as well. And this is basically the concept that based on the data, based on our anomaly detection capabilities within the system, when we see an alert, for instance, or something weird that is happening, we can trigger the Assist agent. It's not a human in this case, it's something else, it's the data, it's an alert. And then the agent analyzes what is going on. I don't know, there's been a spike in network traffic or a slowdown in VDI performance or something like that. It analyzes that. It gets to the root cause. It understands if there was a human impact or not. So is that a problem for employees or not? How big is the problem? What are the root causes? And so on and so forth. And then it decides who's the best person to contact about that and who's the best person to involve. And that is where we start to get this autonomous model that is able to, constantly 24/7 work for us and making sure that the environment is completely seamless. And this vision of the product is not that far away.
Wow, it makes me think, Sam, right? Like, obviously, Tim and I present the DEX show, the podcast, the Next Thing podcast, where you're a regular guest on, and we started that show 4 or 5 years ago. And I think, Tim, when we founded the show, if you'd have said, in a few years, you're going to have a Next Thing product as a guest on the show, we would have raised an eyebrow. We wouldn't have known what you were talking about. It's not a very long passage of time, but we did welcome Assist onto the pod, which listeners, viewers can find for themselves, of course. And you just see the rate of evolution of this technology is absolutely incredible. Definitely interested in the question of like the notion of a cross-departmental DEX assistant, Sam. And I think increasingly everybody inside the DEX space is currently looking outside of it and wondering where it will expand to next, right? And I guess that kind of combination of assist, of AI with that expansive ambition is a really, really interesting question, Mark. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Look, today, assist is mainly used by IT.
Sure.
Absolutely, right? Most of the people that are consuming Nextthing today are part of the IT organization. But
sure.
we can argue that assist itself is not focused on IT. It's much broader than that. The insights that you can get out of DEX are valuable not only for IT, they're valuable for the whole company. Let me give you a couple of examples, right? You could have somebody in facilities ask, how many people are going in average to the New York office? Because they need to optimize spaces for days with the highest occupancy rate and so on and so forth. It's very hard to get this data if you don't have a DEX solution, right?
Yep.
You could have HR ask, what do I need to do to get an up-to-date ENPS score for my employees, right? And Assist will propose a campaign, trigger the campaign, provide the analysis of the data, right? You can think a people manager, right? Any people manager in any business unit asking something like, how's my team doing with the adoption of Copilot? How does that compare? How does that benchmark with other departments in the company, or with my department in other companies and things like that? What do I need to do to improve it? So if you think about that, all of that goes way beyond IT. So we have a huge opportunity there. By the way, one of the things that we plan, we really call this internally, the concept is the democratization of DEX. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we plan to do, is to make Assist part of MS Teams. So it's even easier for people to reach out to Assist and to have this type of questions and conversation with the system.
So Sam, first I'll give you my personal welcome. It's always awesome to chat with you, either one-on-one or in front of the audience. So I appreciate you spending some time with us. You probably know or have seen I'm doing a ton of travel. I hit an 8-week trip, and now I'm on a kind of a second phase. The first one was through Europe. This one was Tokyo, Melbourne. I'm in Sydney right now. I'm talking with a ton of executives. And I had an interesting conversation with one yesterday, very focused on the sentiment side of our platform. And her question was pretty basic. How do you know the opinion, the sentiment, the feeling of an employee? And I go back to some of your early comments on Engage, that we developed that to put a collector in people's heads, right? It's to get their feeling and their thoughts on all kinds of things. How do you see now Assist taking it to the next level? Do you see us moving into analyzing other parts of emotion or gesture or contextual environments, kind of like social media can figure out what you're thinking based on how long you pause on an image or how fast you scroll? How do you see the analysis of emotion and sentiment from employees? Any even thoughts of neural link? Where do we go with this next?
In a non-intrusive way, we should try.
Any fans of Severance out there? We're going to put a chip in everybody's brain.
Right. Coming soon.
Oh boy, listen. If we take that from a logical perspective, the future of human-machine interaction is speech. Think about that, right? The fact that people are listening to this webinar and they're not reading it, the fact that we're enjoying talking about it, but we probably would not enjoy writing a novel about this, is an intrinsic fact, right? I mean, language is universal. All human culture on the planet have spoken languages. By the way, written language is something that requires a lot of teaching and a lot of learning. It's much more complex, right? Speed is fundamental. When people are speaking, they can speak about 150 words per minute. Typing is around 40. So huge difference in speed. And then there is the cognitive load, where it's been proven that speed is much cheaper, right? Lower cognitive load and faster to process. So it's kind of logical that future is speech, but I think today we're seeing a lot of kind of social and psychological barriers to that, and people feel weird about that. There was a study back in 2023 where they identified that 62% of Americans were feeling uncomfortable speaking to AI in public. Probably this is bound to change, right? But you feel a little bit awkward when you're talking to AI in an office and it's not a real person and so on and so forth. So I think that there is a factor on that society needs to catch up a little bit. And today we're choosing to interact with machines in a way that is not necessarily the most efficient one, because we feel more comfortable doing that. By the way, the concept that most of the communication is nonverbal is actually a myth. That's a often misquoted study, and it was referring to the fact that when people talk about sentiments and emotion, then in that case, yes, it's a lot of that is nonverbal. But if it's about facts, question, data, and so on and so forth, most of the communication is verbal. Can we enhance this speech with other forms? Absolutely. Imagine a concrete example around IT. You go into a conference room, it doesn't work. What is the most efficient way to seek help? You take up your phone, you make a video of the screen of the conference room not working, and the system tells you how to fix it or fixes that for you, right? So there are things that we can enhance it. And look, for Neuralink, how should I explain? I think that I'm eagerly waiting for Neuralinks to go mainstream and get one. And I'm dreading that moment just as much. It's kind of, a future that I want, but I also absolutely fear. Does it make sense?
It absolutely does. From the scientific side of me wants to see it and experience it and then shut it off.
Yeah.
Right? It feels scary. Tom, you mentioned kind of looking back 5 years ago when we started the podcast, and could we ever have envisioned talking to an AI assistant? I look 5 years forward. I can't imagine. AI is moving so fast. We almost need to talk to it in terms of like dog years, right? We need AI years. It's moving so quickly. Sam, where do you see that next think and assist function playing in the broader ecosystem, right? Does it become more embedded? You mentioned integrating and embedding it with other tools like Teams. Does it become decentralized? Does it become autonomous on its own or something entirely different? And then as a kind of an IT strategist, I start to use even ChatGPT just to help me develop some thoughts around strategy. So could Assist help me with strategic decisions based on data in my own IT enterprise? Where do you see this going other than just helping with DEX?
Look, as you say, 5 years in this domain is a very, very, very long time. So we can have our predictions and we can work towards our vision and the way that we expect this future to look like. I think even more important is for everybody to be very aware of what is happening and very agile in how they address all of that, right? So agility, ability to change and adapt has never been as important as today with all the change that is happening. Now, that said, you're asking, whether Assist will go in more strategic topics. And I think absolutely. It's not only going to be about Assist, by the way. I think Assist is going to be part of a broader ecosystem of players and tools and systems that will work together in order to help us humans to go really beyond what we're doing today. And it's both about advising on strategy, but also executing part of that strategy. The automation aspect, I think, is very important. When you look at the advice piece, imagine we're going to have a system that has a global knowledge of everything that works for employees and doesn't work. A system that knows how people are interacting with technology. A system that knows where they're failing, where we need support, where we need help to accomplish our tasks. And it will use all of that knowledge plus interactions with other systems, NCP, whatever other technology is going to come up around integration, to seek data outside of that, to even further expand that. And so with all of that, imagine the quality of the advice that you can get. You get, a CIO advisor that has 1,000-some years of experience and that knows about every single company on the planet, but yet understands your own needs very, very, very well. And then there is the point of executing. LLMs are becoming absolutely great in being able to formulate a plan, right? And then part of this plan will be executed by Assist and other agents collaborating together with the help of human when this complete automation is not possible. And all of this, because you mentioned earlier, right? We're talking about earlier in a question, what is the governance model? What is the risk model? And so on and so forth. Obviously, all of this needs to be performed under human governance and supervision. So it's us who's going to decide how much freedom we give to these systems in terms of operating, right?
Yeah, I think if we stay on that, future of DEX, we had a guest on earlier in the year who suggested that perhaps digital employee experience becomes decentralized and becomes the responsibility of each individual technology or technology stack, that centralized DEX and singular ownership of the employee experience probably wasn't sustainable. I don't happen to agree with that. I think if you want a consistent, standard, manageable employee experience, you've got to have a way to manage it centrally. What are your thoughts on the future of DEX? Does it stay centrally managed, or do you see it kind of splitting up and becoming decentralized?
I think both of those things are true at the same time. The governance is centralized. It needs to be centralized. The execution needs to be automated as much as possible. But then it's also up to individuals' responsibility. And I'm saying that because I've seen that working very well in other domains, right? Look at compliance in IT, for instance. The companies define policies and controls at a global level in a centralized manner, right? Then they use tools to perform things such as app updates or block websites that are dangerous and things like that. But at the end of the day, the responsibility of making sure that your OS is up to date and your device is rebooted and you're not opening phishing emails and is so decentralized that it's down to the individual. The same is happening in domains that are completely outside of that. Think about career paths in the enterprise. The company in a centralized way is define what is possible in terms of career path. Then we use tooling and technology to collect feedback, peer feedback, and help us grow. But then at the end of the day, the final responsibility is completely decentralized to employees that are accountable for driving their own growth and so on and so forth, right? So my view is that DEX can become something a little bit like that. The CIO will define the global strategy, taking all the inputs into account and getting recommendations from Assist around what is the strategy that will work the most. We will use automation such as Flow or other systems like that to proactively remove most of the incidents, most of the problem, and execute parts of that strategy. But then at the end of the day, employees will be there to provide feedback and ask when they seek help, when they need help, and guide the system in providing this hyper-personalized experience that they need, right? And so at the same time, you see, very centralized around the whole governance and strategy, but then with individual responsibility to make sure that people get a ton of value out of this at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I have a question a little bit beyond or outside of AI. You're our chief product officer. You've been here for a good long time. Product and product direction is right within your purview, but the company's direction itself is inextricably linked to the product. So you're helping drive where the company goes as well. We've seen some kind of, if you look at the MQ, we've seen consolidation in the DEX market. You mentioned TeamViewer and some company M&A in the industry. What extent do you believe that's driven by technical realities like infrastructure requirements or filling missing capability gaps in their portfolio versus commercial or revenue-driven motivations?
There are a few drivers around this, and it's right a complex space when you look at that. The dynamics are the following. In the past 2 years, it has become completely clear that every single company in the planet needs a DEX strategy. Something that was an early adopter market maybe 5 years ago, now it has become a reality for everybody, right? And the associated fact is that to make the DEX strategy effective, you need a DEX platform. So it's very hard to have an effective DEX strategy if you don't have a DEX platform on which you can rely on, right? So that's the first dynamic. The second one is that the DEX platform problem is a problem that is fundamentally very complex to solve from a technology standpoint. The amount of data processing, the amount of insights, the amount of intelligence that you need in order to be able to have an effective solution that really provides value at the end of the day is mind-blowing compared to many other markets, right? So the technology, it's quite expensive to build. It's very, very, very hard to build. And you need huge expertise in order to be able to do that effectively, right? So there's a high barrier of entry into that. And then the third point that is making things even more complex is that the definition of DEX itself is growing very, very rapidly. What was working 2 years ago, today is not enough anymore, because it's not taking into account the employees, it's not taking accounts into adoption, it's not taking accounts AI, it's not taking accounts automation, and so on and so forth. So many players struggle to keep up with the speed of innovation and expansion that is required in that market. And when you put all of these things together, I think it's clear that it's driving the market towards finding solution that scales toward that. So what you were saying around a certain need of consolidation is definitely there, right?
Let's get into adoption a little bit, Sam, as the boundaries between DEX and DAP continue to blur. How do you anticipate that integration evolving over the next few years, and in which specific domains, be it onboarding, change management, continuous learning, etc., do you expect the advantages of that convergence to be most transformational for organizations?
Look, there is really two value propositions when we look at that. The value proposition for the business and then the value proposition for the employees themselves. And they're quite distinct, right? If we start with the employees, the fundamental aspect around this is that people just want to get their job done. Fast, high quality, low friction. That's what everybody wants in their workplace, right? And when you think about this, every day there are things that are happening that are preventing that, right? That are creating friction in that flow. And for a person, the difference between my computer screen is not working, the app that I'm using is crashing, my internet is too slow, I don't have access to an app that I need, I don't know how to use an app to complete my task or my process, and I don't even know that there is that process that I need to perform, it doesn't really make a difference. It's all the same. It's stuff that is preventing me to have a fast, high quality, and low friction experience at work. Mm-hmm. And when I face one of those things, I just want someone, actually I want probably something, to help me get rid of these problems right away. But I don't want to make the distinction. And that's why from that perspective, there is no distinction between DEX and DAP. From the point of view of the employees, all of these things are the same. There are things that are getting in between me and my work. For the business, the argument is becoming exactly the same. Businesses today, especially in this situation, this year, 2025, businesses are looking for efficiency, right? And to get that efficiency, you need to break silos. We don't live in a world anymore where you can have everybody taking care of their little piece of the garden, right? That doesn't work. And at the same time, you need to break the silos, but there is also a high demand for super hyper personalization of everything, right? It's one workplace for every single employee based on what they need, built for them. And so how for instance, how do you make the most functioning and perfect and effective workplace for a field marketing manager in Spain that works 4 days a week from the office and 1 day remote, right? And it's about understanding what are the right devices for her. What is the most effective tech stack? How do you onboard this person? How do you continuously educate this person to make sure that they keep up to speed? And how do you perform the change management that goes together with a technology that is changing so fast, but people struggle to understand this change and to keep up with this change? And once again, you see the lines between technology, processes, people, tools, they're getting completely blurred. You can be effective only if you master the whole thing. That's why this unification on DEX and DApp is something that is completely unavoidable, because it's guided by the fact that we're seeking a solution to solve problems, and we want to deliver that value end to end for the employees and for the business.
Yeah. So, Sam, a question just kind of came to mind, because we've had some really, like I said, really good conversations on the road with executives, and maybe it's more just of commentary than a question, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. The way the conversation went was the DEX, the IT side of DEX, is more easy for employees to understand and more easy for IT to understand, because an employee is motivated to call the help desk when IT fails because it's somebody else's fault. I can call the help desk and say, you broke me. My machine blue screen because of something outside of my control. The DApp side is critically more important for IT, because employees will not expose themselves to forgetting how to use an application. It's my fault if I don't know how to use an application. It's my fault if I don't remember my training. So I'm not going to be calling the help desk and exposing myself to either the folks I'm calling or even to my manager to put that out there. I'm curious in your opinion of that kind of thought process.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I'm not sure that it matters, right? Because the reality is that in either case, you don't want to call somebody. The last thing that people want to do when they face a technology problem is to call the help desk. They hate it. You need to wait in line. You need to do steps that you think are useless. You need to try to give remote access to your computer. It's complex. It's adding friction to the friction that you're already experiencing. Mm-hmm. So even for the DEX space, people don't want to call somebody, right? For the DApp space, for the application space and all of that, there is that same friction. And then maybe there is a component of, I don't know what you want to call it, of, don't want to get exposed and so on and so forth. Although, to be fair, the fact that somebody doesn't know how to use something, a tool, a product or something like that, it's a failure of technology. It's not a failure of the person, right? If you struggle with technology, it's that because technology is not simple, fast, and intuitive enough. Mm-hmm. The best technology is the technology that just works out of the box. Now, unfortunately, and especially in the enterprise space, technology is made more complex by the fact that it needs to fit specific business processes. And the reason it needs to fit these processes, it's because of compliance, because of governance, because of regulations, and because of the complexity that in a large company, you need to bring many people together and things still need to function. So you need certain of these things, right? You need processes. You cannot get rid of all complexity immediately. And this is where DApp comes to the rescue.
Yep.
Because DApp allows you, first of all, to mitigate and to fix the problem that not all technology is made for everybody, right? Let's remember, we have also 3 generations in the workplace, and the way that they interact with technology is very different. So even for people building technology, it's very hard to make the perfect solution for everybody. Every product should be 3 products, right? To account for the different generations and the digital dexterity. But at the same time, DApp also helps because these products are customized to specific company processes. So even if the technology were perfect, it will still be hard because you need to work around that. And so the combination of the two, it's really where you want to have these capabilities of helping people no matter what the problem is, whether it's technology, adoption, usage, dexterity.
It's almost as if you were sitting at the lunch table with us today. A couple of us had lunch with a CISO, and we asked him what his goals were, and he said, I want everything to be autonomous. We've had auto-updating agents for a long time. They rarely cause a problem, but when something is going to change like that, I want it to be automated. And where he wants to go with that is he wants automated digital deployments, automated transformations, And his feedback was, I can't do that because when my business process changes, I don't have automation for that piece. I have to worry about training people. I have to worry about them, even the simplest things like training them, putting out a USB storage device encryption program that requires them to take different steps. I can't do it quickly because I have to worry about training everybody. So this concept of automation and AI coupled with DEX and DAP, I think gets us to that next step level change where we're not just automating agents to the next version, even our collector auto updates, but now we can start to look at auto updating applications and even auto updating business processes. Do you see DEX now? Does that drive DEX and DApps? And I kind of, it's a softball question for you. Do they become those foundational capabilities for organizations that want to adopt this AI-driven change management?
Look, I think that DEX and DAP into that is not only necessary, it's foundational, but is the pillar on which you need to base that, right? And let's step back for a second, right? We say the business, there's a high demand for growth and efficiency at the same time. And the way that this is reflecting in an opportunity for all of us, with all of these AI tools, is that we're seeing a massive proliferation and the specialization of your tools. So if you embrace that, you can win. I give you an example, right? 3 years ago, if you wanted to do a presentation, you used the PowerPoint, right? It's fairly easy. Everybody used PowerPoint for that. Basically, everybody in the business world. Today, if I want to do a presentation that I completely control, I use PowerPoint. If I need to do a quick pitch for a new product idea, I use Gamma. If I want to do some storytelling, I use Tome.ai. If I want to do a business presentation that looks beautiful, I use Beautiful.ai. And if I make a mistake, if I use PowerPoint for a quick pitch, it takes me 5 hours instead of 10 minutes. So I lost 4 hours and 55 minutes. If I use Gamma for a precise board deck, probably I get fired. They would say there's no substance there, right? So the opportunity is there, but the complexity is so much more. Before it was easy, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at all of that, I feel that IT is up to that challenge. We're seeing processes that used to take months are being streamlined through hours because of automation and AI, and this change is happening. But things are changing so fast that now it's a human that is bottleneck. We cannot process fast enough these changes in order to be able to take advantage of that. So adoption is the bottleneck, right? And the key thing here is that to get the real value out of all of this AI, the tools are there, but you need to get the right tech and get it to work seamlessly. You need to choose the right tools and personalize it to the right people. And then you need to make sure that you educate them. You need to educate them to get value, to know what to choose, and to use them effectively, right? And that's the future of DEX plus DAP together at the end of the day, bring all of the vision together.
So I've got one more, and then Tom, I'll throw it back to you. But Sam, on staying on the security track, part of the conversations we've had with security executives is not, the first part is revolving around the speed to get security patches and security updates out to the environment as fast as possible, because they really want to get that 0-day protection. But there is a risk in it, in that it breaks somebody, or that they move too fast for comfort. But the other aspect of this in security and governance and control, along with the process of the company, is the data and the intellectual property of the company. So what are your thoughts about that as a limiting factor, their speed in adopting and the security risk that comes along with it, the potential for both not only their own intellectual property, but their customers' data to become public? Do you see other security risks other than those that are kind of top of mind?
Listen, at the end of the day, it's always a question of risk management, right? And companies, they need to balance two things. the risk for the business to be non-competitive and too slow by not adopting the right technology, so the risk of staying behind, with the security risk of data leaks or attacks that adopting new technology implies. And it's always been the case. Any technology has always been like that. Now, what is changing with AI is fundamentally two things. The first one is that AI is breaking a principle that nobody likes, but I think everybody was using, which is kind of security by obscurity. Think about that. Before, one of the biggest problems that employees mention when it comes to productivity and where they spend most of their time working is finding data. Right? So Gartner says between 30 to 40% of the time of people used to be spent finding and analyzing data. Right? And today, so this is something that is hard today, right? To find the right data, because it's usually a mess, no matter how well it's organized. Now, with AI, you can make the mistake that everything gets indexed. So finding the data is no longer a problem, to the point where you didn't put the right partitioning in place. And so anybody can ask in a bot in Microsoft Teams, what's the salary of the CEO? And the thing will happily disclose it, right? Before it was still there, the vulnerability was there, but it was so hard to find that it was contained in some way, shape, or form. And that goes for inside data and outside data to the outside of the organization, right? And then the second factor is that, like every new technology, AI is introducing new physical attack vectors in the system. So there are new things that you can exploit to get data out. You can try to trick LLMs now to give you proprietary data, company data. So at the end of the day, I think the recommendations are kind of always the same, right? For everything that is technology, you need to agree on your risk appetite. Where do you put the bar? What you definitely want to do is to rely on trusted vendors that you know, right? Not jump into things that seem too good to be true. And then the other thing is it's becoming much more fast-paced. So what I've seen working very well is to have a dedicated target team with legal, IT, and security people that can review the needs and the requests very, very quickly on a weekly basis, and people can escalate to that, and that makes it very, very efficient. Then the second aspect is employee education, which is absolutely fundamental. Where do you put your company data? Where you can use AI and technology, but without personal data, without company data, without sensitive data. How do you understand which type of data you're sharing? How do you understand when this data can be used for learning and when you're protected? Right? Education is a fundamental piece. But then also it's responsibility of IT to create a safe environment. So what is obviously too risky, they should block it, for instance, right? There's tools, LLMs that you definitely don't want, and then you block at the proxy. And so you create as safe as possible an environment without going and limiting the flexibility. So I believe it's a problem that we know how to solve because we solved it very, very many times in the past. What is changing today is that what is required is to solve it quicker than before. So while in the past it was okay to take 6 months to do a security assessment for some new technology, today you need to do it in 6 days or 6 hours, right? Mm-hmm.
And so many fascinating sort of subtopics. I think we've explored a lot of great things here today. I just want to end on a consideration of the DEX market. And I know we're kind of quite short on time at this point, so we can keep it fairly short, Sam. But I'm interested in your thoughts on what will define competitive advantage in DEX if DEX doesn't expand well beyond that acronym in the coming 1, 2, 3 years. What do you think is going to, I suppose, define those vendors who are able to make that transition outside of the previous strictures, if you will?
Yeah, 3 things. Data is the data, telemetry. That's a fundamental aspect around all of that, right? We need data to train the AI models, right? Yep. So data, AI models, train the AI models. And then I think it's a bit more abstract maybe, but the ability to bring these DEX journeys together seamlessly, so out of the box, a system that just works out of the box, but at the same time is fully personalized to the need of individual companies. So there is no one size fits all anymore, but there is also no more, I'm going to spend 6 months trying to set up my system, right? It needs to work, get me value from day one, but at the same time, it needs to work for me, for my need, and it needs to work very well for that. In my opinion, companies that really can nail these 3 things will be in a great shape for the future.
Fab. And look, speaking of the future, I hope to see you both in 12 months' time to celebrate another leader placement, another top placement in the next Magic Quadrant. And no doubt the industry will have moved with frightening and fascinating pace in the meantime and give us much more to discuss. Sam, it's always a pleasure, always insightful. Thank you so much for joining us today.